Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira took place in the co-main event of UFC 291, Poirier versus Gaethje 2, and Alex Pereira gets the win by a razor-close split decision victory. I've just taken my time, which is why I'm so late with these reaction videos, to go and rewatch the third round, because at the end of the day, the third round was the round that decided the fight. And although it was a close decision, and I can see an argument for either way, it's not a robbery. Let's be real here. This is not a robbery. Very, very close fight. Alex Pereira, I guess, landed a little bit more than Jan Blachowicz on the feet in the third round. I was worried, though, that they were just going to go with, oh, it was a close fight on the feet, and Jan Blachowicz got a takedown at the end of the round and controlled Alex Pereira until the end of the round. I was very worried, whilst I was watching it, that the judges were just going to give it to Jan Blachowicz, because they often do that, you know what I mean? That's what I was worried about. Now, I did think that Jan Blachowicz won watching it live. Watching it back, I didn't realize that Alex Pereira landed a lot more jabs to the body than I remember him landing in round 3. But it was a very close fight. I can't wait to see if the Weasel makes a video to judge this one, because I do think we're going to need it to decide who really won. We're going to need to go through the fine details of the fight to find out who really won this one. But at the end of the day, Jan Blachowicz can't really be angry for losing that fight by decision. You know what I mean? Like, you get a takedown at the very end of the fight against Alex Pereira, and you lay on him. Like, seriously, Jan Blachowicz. I love Jan Blachowicz. I think he's a great dude, humble as they come. You got a takedown. You need that third round. What's stopping you from 1, 2, 3 hammer fists? That's all he would have needed, in my opinion, to maybe change that fight in his direction, is a tiniest bit of ground and pound towards the end of that third round. But I think he was so focused on, just let me get the takedown, because he was failing it so much in rounds 2 and 3. And he was really gassing out. And I think that's another reason why the judging did go the way of Alex Pereira. Now, also the reason why it could be because they just scored it to him based on damage, which is absolutely okay. But one thing that didn't help Jan Blachowicz was the fact that he was breathing so unbelievably heavy in the second and third round. And in the third round, although Alex Pereira, it's not like he was beating up Jan Blachowicz. It's not like Jan Blachowicz was beating up him. It was a very close round until the takedown that maybe Alex Pereira was slightly ahead in. Jan Blachowicz was backing up, breathing heavy, stumbling backwards to shots that weren't really landing too clean, but he was just trying to get out of the way of them and stumbling backwards, plodding around. And Alex Pereira was stoic, stone-faced, just like he normally is, and walking down Jan Blachowicz, being patient, not showing the same signs of fatigue. I'm sure he was also feeling really, really tired, but he didn't show the same signs of being absolutely exhausted as Jan Blachowicz. And I do think if it did go on into a 4th or 5th round, we would see Alex Pereira win that fight eventually. I don't think Jan Blachowicz had another minute of fight left in him, where I think Alex Pereira could have done another round. I do want to say one thing, though. Now that we've talked about the decision and the fact that it wasn't a robbery, and maybe I was just worried watching it live, I'm such a fan of Alex Pereira that I was like, oh no, it's close and he got a takedown and we know how the judges feel. You know, they don't often look straight at the criteria, you know what I mean? They don't often go based on, oh, but, you know, he landed an extra jab or two, you know what I mean? They don't normally go to that. They normally just go, oh, well, it was close and Blachowicz got a takedown. I was worried. But outside of the decision, let's talk about the performance from Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira beat a Jan Blachowicz that came to wrestle. I didn't think that was going to happen whatsoever. I thought we were going to see an Alex Pereira going in there against Jan Blachowicz, and Blachowicz would maybe test out the stand-up for a round, or at least test out the stand-up for the first 3 minutes. And I was like, oh, I feel like Alex Pereira is going to win that fight, because I think Jan Blachowicz is going to test it out on the feet a little bit. But he beat a Jan Blachowicz who had his back for the entirety of the first round. Went out there, immediately shot a single leg takedown. Now, Pereira initially defended and actually threatened with a guillotine at one point. And I was thinking, oh my God, that guillotine, when they changed the angle, it was under the jaw of Jan Blachowicz. So if he really wanted to be Jack Della Maddalena about it, he could have arguably tried out that standing guillotine, but he didn't want to give up position, because look what happened to Glover in round 5 against Jiri Prochazka. I'm sure Glover has really instilled, do not pull guillotines and make the same mistakes I did, into the head of Alex Pereira. But at the same time, Alex Pereira survived round one. I've got to be honest, as a guy who picked Alex Pereira to win by first round KO, I was so worried in the first round. So worried. So unbelievably worried in the first round because I'm like, oh, he's got his back. Oh, the body triangle's in. He's threatening a choke. But to be fair to Alex Pereira, he did the right thing. He got wrist control. He worked 2-on-1 at times to try and shake the angle of the back take of Jan Blachowicz against a cage. And that made Jan Blachowicz not really be able to commit to the choke because 1, Pereira was tucking his chin. 2, he was fighting hands whenever Blachowicz went for it. And 3, Pereira was actually kind of shaking him off the body triangle a little bit. And Blachowicz was like focused on trying to readjust and not end up on bottom, because if he ended up on bottom in round 1, that could have been big power shots from Alex Pereira in top position. And that would be really worrying for Jan Blachowicz. But at the end of the day, Alex Pereira's not been doing MMA for long. He really hasn't been doing MMA for long. Jan Blachowicz has been doing it for so unbelievably long. And Pereira just survived the grappling against him with his back taken. That should not be happening. And it speaks to how well Glover is training Pereira in the ground game. This is a different Pereira. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't the guy, like, he survived so well on the ground. And he is good at surviving on the ground. And he doesn't give up submission attempts and stuff like that. But we're seeing over time, because of how new he is to the game, to have Glover from the get-go, he's making massive improvements in his patience, in his calmness, in his composure in bad positions, and he didn't give up his neck. We've seen guys like Poirier against some of the better grapplers at lightweight, like Khabib, though. Not taking anything away from them, but we've seen guys just give up their neck and make a silly mistake. But Alex Pereira, who's new to the game, tucked his chin the whole time. Tucked his chin the entire time, constantly fought hands, constantly fought for wrist control on Jan Blachowicz as well. And I think, I said this watching it live, the body triangle that Jan Blachowicz had gassed out his legs. It wasn't a comfortable body triangle where he's like Aljo and he's got top position and he's got the guy flat out on the ground with the body triangle. It wasn't a position where he was laying on his back, he had the body triangle and there's nothing really going on. He had a body triangle at a really uncomfortable angle for himself where he was fighting against his own body weight to stay in that body triangle. You know what I mean? And I think that gassed out Jan Blachowicz's legs because in round 2, you could see them both breathing heavy, but Jan Blachowicz started really gassing in round 2. And I honestly thought, well, if Alex Pereira doesn't finish him here at the end of the second, he's going to finish him in the third. But also Alex Pereira was so tired because it was at altitude at the end of the day. Let's not forget about that. And that's the most impressive thing to me about this whole thing. Alex Pereira beat a Jan Blachowicz at altitude after having his back taken for the entirety of the first round. And on top of that, coming off a KO loss 3 months ago. First time back at light heavyweight. Of course, he's fought there at he's fought there in Glory. But this was his first time in the UFC at light heavyweight. He's been to middleweight over and over and over again. And it was shocking because I think that Jan Blachowicz got the best chance to beat an Alex Pereira moving up. If Jan Blachowicz would have taken on an Alex Pereira in his light heavyweight UFC career at any other point, it would have been a tougher fight for him. This was Jan Blachowicz's chance, if any, to beat Alex Pereira, and he immediately shot the takedown. Immediately got the back. It was worst case scenario for Pereira, and he still pulls it off in round 2 and 3. So regardless what you think about the decision, you've got to give credit to that for Pereira, man. How short he's been in this game. If he beats Yuri and becomes light heavyweight world champion, I'm calling it he's the greatest combat sports athlete of all time. Simple as that. 2-weight Glory world champion, nay. The first ever 2-weight simultaneous Glory world champion. And on top of that, if he becomes the 2-weight UFC world champion, he's the greatest combat sports athlete of all time. And I think he beats Yuri. Because he was coming off a KO loss. This was his first time at light heavyweight after a while. He got his back taken immediately. Yuri is not going to grapple. Simple as that. He's not. He's going to rush forward and try and make something happen by KO on the feet. That's what Yuri does. He always does that. And I think he'll make a point to try and strike with Pereira as well. I think he's got a better chance against Yuri. If you asked me before the fight happened between him and Blachowicz, who does Pereira have a better chance against? Blachowicz or Yuri? You all would say Yuri. I would say Yuri. And he just beat Blachowicz. And now he's got momentum. And it's not like he took crazy damage. I mean, his leg's going to be sore because Blachowicz checked a few kicks. And that was a bit of the controversy in the third round because although it looked like Pereira was landing a lot of calf kicks, a few of them were checked by Jan Blachowicz. And Blachowicz was landing some good leg kicks back and some good punches. But I think it was that body work from Pereira, man. The punches to the body, that straight jab to the body, I called it. I didn't call the liver shot KO that I said was going to happen. But I did say that straight jab to the body is going to be huge on the square-framed, upright stance, big torso body of Jan Blachowicz. That jab to the body was working for him constantly. And every time it landed, you could see Jan Blachowicz start to give in a little bit. Now, round 2 also didn't look great for Alex Pereira, but when he worked his way back up after a takedown in round 2, which was so impressive, by the way, because I thought, oh my God, he's been taken down again. He's in full guard on bottom. He's going to not get back up here. When he got back up and Blachowicz covered up against the cage immediately, and Pereira took the center against him, because normally, like, Jan Blachowicz is the type of guy to be throwing big shots off the break, but he covered up as soon as they left in the clinch in the second round when Pereira got back up. And Pereira started teeing off. Body shots, head shots, way more patient than he was against Israel Adesanya in the second fight. I think he smelt a finish against Adesanya and rushed it a bit too much. And those uppercuts on Blachowicz were so close at times. It could have been a late second round TKO, and he was really battering Blachowicz towards the end of the second round. Blachowicz survives, and then round 3 comes around very, very close. I guess Pereira landed a little bit more, but Blachowicz did land good shots. People are acting like you don't win by laying on your opponent. I'm like, it was a very close... I know, listen. I'm so biased to Pereira. You know what I mean? I was literally chanting in the fight, think about Adesanya's career that you've got to ruin. You know what I mean? I was thinking like, come on. I need you to beat Adesanya again. You need to win this one because if he does, he'll probably beat Yuri and then he'll do the Adesanya trilogy. If Adesanya gets past his 2 tests in the middleweight division, let's be real, Strickland ain't much of a test. He probably won't shoot a takedown. But yeah, I was biased towards Alex Pereira. And maybe I was so wanting of him to win that I was just more heartbroken that he got taken down at the end, thinking that the judges were going to give it to Jan Blachowicz. But yeah, he did land more. But Blachowicz was landing on the feet in round 3, and I'm sick of people saying that he wasn't. He landed 26 significant strikes. People are acting like, yeah, he got a takedown, but all the damage was Pereira. And don't get me wrong, Pereira minorly outstruck him in round 3. But Blachowicz was landing good shots on Pereira. Good shots. Leg kicks on him as well, checking some leg kicks, taking them too. But let's not act like this was like, how can you ever say Blachowicz won? Like, this was a very close fight, and I'm eagerly waiting for the Weasels who really won in round 3 because I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to watch the actual round 3 again and cross-reference the 2 of them because it was a really close one. But at the end of the day, Pereira wins against a Jan Blachowicz who came to wrestle. That is so impressive. That's more impressive than anything. If he would have beat Jan Blachowicz, you stood there with him, I bet I would have been saying, why would Jan Blachowicz not wrestle? People would have been saying, why not shoot a takedown? He tried, and he did get it, and he dominated in the grappling in round 1. And he still couldn't win. Pereira still pulled it off. Stuffed the takedowns in round 2, landed knees to the body in the clinch. That jab to the body was money all night. He did better against Jan Blachowicz with the leg kicks than Israel Adesanya did, and he won up to Adesanya again. Let's be real. Oh, Adesanya, you can't move up to 205 and beat Jan Blachowicz? Hold my bow. You know what I mean? I'm going up there. Adesanya. Boom, boom, boom. Starts battering Jan Blachowicz in the second round. I was so hyped. I thought he was about to get a finish. And I think he probably could if he put a bit more steam into him. But he knew, this is altitude. I'm feeling really tired. And round 3 is coming up. And I don't want to be gassed out on bottom in round 3. So, really a good win from Alex Pereira. Extremely close. Don't act like it's not. Don't act like Blachowicz did nothing on the feet in the third round. He landed some good shots as well and was keeping up in the striking with Pereira. And it was close enough to where I thought, you know what? Pereira's minorly ahead. He's doing good towards the end of round 3. But the judges are probably going to look at that takedown. But I'm glad they didn't because now we get Pereira versus Prochaska. And for Jan Blachowicz, it's retirement in my opinion. Nothing left to prove. 40 years of age. What more is there to do for him? You know, he's won it. He's won the belt in his old age. He arguably should never have been there, but he worked it. He got it done. Underdog after underdog, he pulled it off. Lost it to Glover. He doesn't need to continue fighting, man. He doesn't need to continue fighting. And maybe they do something where if Ankalaev loses to Rakic, they might do a rematch between those two, or something else could make sense. But if they are going to do another fight for Jan Blachowicz, I'm calling this right now. We have enough Polish talent to have Jan Blachowicz headline a fight night in Poland for his last fight. If they're going to do one more, they never go anywhere but France and the UK and Europe anymore. They haven't been to Germany in forever. I know there's no German talent other than Abbas, a new type of German. Whoops. Either way, Poland. Jan Blachowicz in the main event, Mateusz Gamrot in the co-main event. They can have Gamrot as a main event against Fiziev. Why not have him as a co-main? Even if he loses, do a matchup with him. You know what I mean? Co-main event of a Poland card with Jan Blachowicz, Krylov 2 as a main event, or maybe like Blachowicz if Ankalaev loses to Rakic in the main event instead. They've got to give him something because he's been around for so long. I feel bad for him because it was such a close fight and he gave it his all. And he burned out his legs in that body triangle in round 1, as I said he did. But I'm just happy Alex Pereira... I'm burping. I'm just happy Alex Pereira won because now we get Alex Pereira if he beats Yuri. But we still get Yuri Pereira. That's amazing in December. That's the December main event of a pay-per-view. Guaranteed. If Pereira's ready to turn around after a KO loss in 3 months, he's ready to turn around by the end of the year. It's July. Pereira Prohaska. December pay-per-view main event. Co-main event Volkanovski versus Topuria. Sign me up to that absolutely creme de la creme card and make that matchup. And if he beats Yuri... and Adesanya beats Strickland in September, and let's say Adesanya beats Duplessis in January or February, I don't care if Ankalaev wins another 5 in a row. Cut him from the sport. I'm joking. But maybe. Don't care about Ankalaev. You will not ruin everything like Makhachev did at lightweight. You will not ruin everything like Umar was trying to do at featherweight, bantamweight. Get lost. All right? And then we do Pereira Adesanya 3. Middleweight, light heavyweight. Come on. Storybook. Storybook ending for the pair of them. We settle the beef. And I'm telling you, if he has momentum, and he's the one with a bit of a longer layoff to work things out for that trilogy, I think Pereira beats him at light heavyweight because that is a large man. And he's only going to fill out into that division. This is Pereira with 3 months to get used to light heavyweight. He's just packed on chub, right? He had a bit of a belly on him. His abs weren't showing as much. Now we're going to get Pereira bulked into 205. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.